I don't. Whatever. Yeah, that's rolling. That's good. That's
We got
good.
audio, we got camera, we got
audio.
those are the two things we need,
Camera's
I guess.
rolling. There's lots of red. All right, sweet, cool. Well, we're here at Handsome Jack with my friend Henry Mansfield.
Woo! Hello. Thanks for having me,
Sweet.
Sean.
Yeah, of course. It's so cool to be doing like this, like again, like this test pilot with you on this live session. I'm so excited because you were episode 4 of the
Is that
podcast.
4? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 years ago.
And that was that was Christmas time, right? Because I remember
Yeah.
the Santa hat on in that
Yes.
video. That
Yeah.
was I had like just moved back to Seattle. That was
No
totally
way.
yeah.
Far
that was brand
out.
new. So thanks for having me back.
Yes, absolutely. Super excited. Well, cool. So just recently, we won't hear this performance tonight, but I'd like to shout it out. Just recently, you had a release show at Sunset Tavern featuring a new single called Loverboy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you take us through that song really quick?
Gosh. Loverboy came out of oh man. I think everyone has that experience, whether they are that person or whether they know that person, they've dated that person, who uses like romantic attachment as an excuse not to form their own personality. You know, it's
Ooh.
kind of that whole like I am just going to keep throwing myself at people because that's easier than sorting out my own issues or having to have some kind of intrinsic sense of value. You know, and I've been that person, and I've also been on the other side of that. And no, that song, when people ask me what it's really about, that song's about me more than anything. I think I hit a point where I realized how many times I think I threw myself into relationships just because it was so much easier to like be loved by someone else and have to do that work myself, you know? And but you know, I wanted to approach that subject matter from like a playful, kind of cheeky place if I could. So the tone of the song is kind of upbeat, and I wanted to strike that balance as best I could between like not quite a diss track, but also adding like I didn't feel comfortable criticizing that kind of concept of character without offering some breadcrumbs to like self-improvement and finding your way out of that and whatnot. So yeah, that song's just an attempt to, I guess, kind of talk about that archetype of person and provide some help to anyone who's in that situation if I can.
Absolutely. Have you been able to like find people who are like in a similar place as you, where you're trying to make this transition of like self-improvement and focusing more on just loving yourself?
I think a lot of people are making that journey. You
Absolutely.
know, it's I mean, even the most, I think, self-confident person in the world could probably tell you things that they don't like about themselves. They're trying to work on about themselves or whatnot. I think weirdly, I think self-acceptance is one of those like weird long journeys we all go through, and it's never not really a destination. I think you can. I think the minute you make peace with yourself, there's always kind of more peace to be made in something, and people change so much throughout life that I'd be hard pressed to find anybody who's not trying to find their way to more comfort with themselves.
Yeah.
So,
did you have like any revelations as you were writing the song, where like you're coming up with certain lyrics, and as that is kind of guiding you, then you're like, oh, wait, I just learned this about myself, and then that became like a new lyric or something?
that's a good question. It all. There's a few lines in there that I lifted like directly from therapy sessions, like things my therapist said. One of those is just because you feel it doesn't make it true. I think there were a lot of moments I'd be talking to my therapist, and I was like, but I feel this so strongly, and she's like, yeah, but that's not what's happening. That's not what's real. Like your feelings are real, but she was like, you've based so much of your life, it seems like, for so long on the things that you feel in a moment, not what is actually happening in reality. And sometimes those things are the same. And most of the time, it seems like for you, at least, those things are different.
Yeah.
And as me being someone who I think I've been pretty anxious my whole life too, that's where a lot of it came from, was kind of working through the like you're in a space with people and you're freaking out about it, and everything you're thinking about, everything you're feeling, and why your heart's racing isn't really happening in the room. No one's thinking about it but you.
Yeah.
So that was one of them. And then I think the kind of main hook line of love yourself before you love me is something that I think also came out of therapy and also came out of a relationship I got out of at that time where. I think what I was talking about earlier, where I just realized how much it was easier for me to get excited about loving someone else and getting loved back than like the kind of weird, awkward, unsexy work of like waking up each day and being like, I'm gonna find a way to make peace with being myself,
Yeah.
So,
It makes me think of like, for me, I have every now and then like a acid flashback.
Yeah.
Where like suddenly like, especially like music can very much induce that. So like I was at a festival, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I think I'm tripping a little bit. And I was looking at my body, and I'm like, I feel like I'm having an intense like rejection of self.
Whoa.
Like I was looking at like my arms and like my body and stuff, and I was like, this doesn't make sense all of a sudden.
Was that like a classic ego death? Is that how you described that? Did it feel
kind of
like
like
that,
it felt weird to just be a human.
Whoa.
Like I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Did you
And
bring
then,
any of that with you into kind of how you're operating now, or like
operating now.
Yeah.
I will say that like, I forget about my body. You know, like whenever I'm like talking, because like you can't like see your legs and your body and stuff. Everything is just like your eyes and what you're taking in. So like every now and then I'll look down and be like, oh shit, like I'm wearing pants and like I got legs and stuff. So I feel like sometimes I do have like this weird like it's not out of body, but a complete like lack of understanding that it's like that I have a body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I do just feel like I'm just kind of like experiencing and taking in a bunch of information and forget that I'm like a little person running through this thing. You know what I mean?
A little primate, little monkey.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm just watching a movie, bro. And then I'm like, oh shit, wait, I'm in this thing. Well, sweet. Okay, so that was your most recent release.
Yeah.
Your show was amazing, and I just want to say on public record, I sent you a text like the next day from your show, but I absolutely love the level of production value that you put into your shows because it makes it, again, like this original conversation we had like 3 years ago about making the show something more than just, you know, us playing the music and let's just have a good time.
Totally.
So it was really cool to like hear those voice memos or voicemails.
Yeah.
Voicemails that you had from people talking about like them being out of relationships. It was just like super intimate, and I know like the person I was there with was like kind of like whoa, like had like that shock factor to it. So just want to shout out, you know, again like your creativity and trying to include the audience more into what you're doing. And I think it just makes so much sense with like you as an artist because in your music it is so like theatrical and moving. Like there's a lot of movement in your songs that just like trying to grab the audience in more ways. I love to see it.
Thank you.
I love to see it.
Thank you. No, I mean it's all about I think balancing like the songs and the shows and the appearances and everything are trying to balance I think that sense of spectacle, that sense of I think people love to go see something that you know amazes them for lack of a better word, whether that's you know a Broadway show or a movie or something. You want to feel that sense of scale I think. But I think if that sense of scale isn't attached to I think an emotional core, you know, or something to orbit around in that way. Sometimes it can feel like spectacle for the sake of spectacle. So I'm definitely interested these days in marrying these ideas of like, how can I make this like, you know, world for people to exist in that has, you know, this kind of scale to it, and also anchor it something very real and emotional. So I was so happy people engaged with the voicemail thing and the show at large. So
yeah. I mean, and something like that too. It grabs the audience attention because like, wait, what's happening right now?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, this person's talking about their toxic ex, or how they had to break up with somebody. Because one that resonated with me was just like, what did they say? They were like, I was giving like 100% to somebody and just not getting that back. And it's like, I think a lot of us know what that feels like.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing I loved about those voicemails and what I was talking about earlier when you were talking about, you know, do you know people going through the same journey? I was genuinely surprised when we set up that voicemail line how vulnerable people were willing to get.
Yeah.
I think I figured we'd
Somebody's parking their car.
But no, when we set up the voicemail line, I was really surprised by how vulnerable people were willing to get as far as the things like kind of to a stranger with no response, they'd be willing to leave. And we got probably, I don't know, 15 to 20 voicemails over that. And we only picked 3 for the show. But there were some that I listened to that I was like, this person is really, really going through it. And and I think just what I loved about that show was playing them, and then the amount of people, you know, yourself included, saying, "Oh, I kind of saw myself in that. Oh, that's something I felt," you know, and just how I think so many of us end up in that place of, "Wow, I'm really giving so much for the sake of not being alone," you know?
Yeah. Oh my God, that is a huge thing. Is being okay with just being alone, because it's very difficult. There are moments because I'm alone right now, where I'm like going to bed. I'm like, "Fuck, I'm going to bed alone," or I'm like, I'm really alone right now. But there's also, you know, way more moments where I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm alone. And I'm like, it's actually really nice to just sit here and like fart by myself. And
Yeah. How are you manifesting, you know, a relationship with yourself right now, Sean? What does that look like?
Lots of this. Because I've been going to the gym. I got muscles now.
That's totally. I mean, you look good.
Hey, thank you. But yeah, I think, you know, just like little things of self-love and reminding myself that I have a good life and life is very good to me, and I've been very blessed and fortunate. So just trying to practice a lot of gratitude, because when you do that and you're just like actively grateful and like speaking those things out, it very much just raises your frequency. So that's something I'm trying to be mindful of, is like, what am I vibrating at and who am I surrounding myself around that's going to like make sure that those vibes are matched or raised. The other thing that I've disconnected with a little bit, but I recently found over the last year, is mirror work. So if you just look in the mirror and you talk to yourself, you suddenly like gain a deeper sense of self. you are like, wow, I'm fucking beautiful, because you tell yourself that. You're looking at the mirror and you're like, you're looking at the mirror and you're like, I am hot, I am sexy, look at you, good night, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you say those things and it just like raises up your frequency. And then it's like our human experience is each other, right? Like you're experiencing me and I have no idea. I have kind of an idea what that's like through the mirror work. But when you get to experience yourself in those moments and you're giving yourself those affirmations, it just like raises your self-confidence like so much.
Yeah.
So I'd love to segue really quick and start talking about some of the songs that we're going to get to hear tonight.
Yeah, sure.
I think the most recent song that you released prior to Loverboy was Bend Your Knees last year. Yeah, sweet. So let's go ahead and talk about Bend Your Knees.
Bend Your Knees came out of I have always loved roller skate like throughout my life, but never really fell into it in a permanent way until I moved back to Seattle back in 22, right after we had our first meeting.
Yeah.
And fell in with a group of people who went to Southgate roller rink like pretty much once or twice a week. And speaking of shout out Southgate, Seattle institutions, incredible people and place. But it helped that I was going with someone who I was like falling for and having feelings for in the beginning of a new relationship there. But I think for me, what really struck me and kind of probably was the initial seed of the song was the sense of community that happens at roller rinks. And I have a lot of friends who go like social dancing, and I don't consider myself someone nearly coordinated enough to do that. But being at a roller rink was the first time I kind of felt that joy that I think my friends who social dance describe of like being in a room full of people that you're not necessarily like deeply interacting with, but you're all moving your body together and you're all the atmosphere is friendly and open, and I don't know, it was a really beautiful thing to be involved with. And the song itself is about on summer solstice 2023, me and my partner at the time skated up and down Alki Beach watching the sun go down, and it was just one of those, I think, like beautiful cinematic moments that I wanted to try and capture. But beneath it was this attempt to talk about, I think, that insecurity at the start of something new. When I think it's so easy for all of us to talk like a big game and like, oh my God, I'm a catch, I'm this. But when you get into something new and you're really being vulnerable with someone, it's frightening. It's a little bit. You're like, oh my God, am I worthy? Am I enough? Is this person? Well, the minute you've entrusted, I think, a degree of your self-esteem to someone else. And so that song was, I think, an attempt to dig into that a little bit of being kind of nervous about failure and hoping to be worthy of someone, but moving forward anyway. And I thought skating was like the perfect metaphor for that. So that's where
very
it came
cool.
from. Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'm not much of a skater, but I can dance. Okay, sweet. So another song that we're gonna hear is I-5. And what I liked about that one is there's a lot of like vivid scenery about just like I guess a road trip through I-5 and the things you might see. So where'd that song come from?
The pitch I always give this one, I'll play this a lot at like So Far shows, and I'll talk about. So that was I moved down to LA in 2019, like right before the pandemic. And then pandemic hit, and I ended up having to drive back home a lot up that long stretch of I-5 through like the desert. And this was around the same time that on TikTok, like sea shanties got really popular.
Oh,
if
no
you remember
way.
that, yeah, like around 2020, early pandemic, people were getting really into sea shanties, and I think sea shanties are just incredible. And I think I was like, God, I want to write something in kind of in that style and in that shape, but I don't really know if I have like so many of those songs are about like journeys or being on a boat through the Arctic or something. And I was like, I don't have something of that same scale yet. So I don't know what would it be about. What's a journey that I know really well? And I was like halfway up I-5, and I was like, what would work? So that song's a road shanty, is what I call it. It's about coming home. I mean, really more than anything, I think I have a lot of love for this place. Seattle's where I was born and raised. Grew up here, went to high school here, and I left. I lived a lot of other places for a while, and then nothing has ever felt as much like home as here has, and so coming back has felt really lovely. And so, yeah, that song's a bit of a love song to just this area, but also I think the West Coast at large of just like as much as I like to crack jokes about that drive, because Jesus, man, when you're 8 hours through California and realize you have 4 hours left, you're like, holy crap. But I mean, there really is so much beauty and culture just in these 3 states alone, and so I wanted to pay tribute to that as best I can. And something I don't talk about a lot was I really wanted a specific kind of sea shanty cadence to that. So there's a songwriter named Stan Rogers, who's an incredible, just mind-blowing Canadian songwriter, who has a song called Northwest Passage, which is this beautiful kind of shanty form song about he's comparing his own journeys around Canada to the journeys of Mackenzie and Frobisher back, the people who kind of colonized northern Canada back in the time. And I think that song is just stunning. It's one of my favorite folk songs of all time. And the main cadence of I-5 is ripped directly from that song. So if anyone goes and listens to Northwest Passage by Stan Rogers, I'm a fraud. I stole it and changed the chords. But
Inspired by.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome. I will say that drive I-5 is epic. It is an odyssey of sorts. It's beautiful. They're like driving through the mountains and things like that. And I feel like it's probably one of the most scenic drives you can take on an interstate.
Yeah.
Like, from start to finish, just like all the different things you see on the West Coast.
For sure. Especially like NorCal forward. You got like Shasta and then the Oregon Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just stunning.
So that song, it's on the album that you released?
Yeah. It's on the Myths, which we put out, 3 years ago now? That feels crazy.
So I'd love to have like a little sidebar to talk about the album art that you had for that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious because I saw like a bunch of different flyers.
Yeah.
When I zoomed in and looked at them, I was like, these look familiar, but I don't recognize them. So what was the inspiration behind all those flyers?
So Myths is an album that talks a bit about, movie making specifically, but just kind of storytelling in general and the ways that I think whether emotionally or intentionally or not, we storytell to kind of survive to a degree.
Okay.
And so I wanted to make an album cover that I don't know, played around with the movie theme of it all. So I was like, could I make like a movie poster for each song? How would that work?
Yeah.
And that's where that started. So it was a lot of me cobbling stuff together from like stock images. It was me like cutting stuff together in Canva. I am armed with a Canva subscription, man. I love it.
Nice.
No, some of them are really truly like pulled from a Google image Creative Commons search, and I slapped a logo on them. But no, I'm pretty happy with how a lot of them look, and no, I think it makes for a nice album cover.
That is so kick-ass.
Thanks, man.
That is such a cool idea.
Thank you.
And then, so like the album cover is like a poster board with like each poster that you made.
Yeah.
But the video that you watch, the Canvas video.
Oh yeah.
They're like all ripped up and kind of burned.
Yeah. Over time, every couple songs, they get a little more ripped and a little more kind of decayed, and I wanted to capture kind of the passage of time. I actually did that over on Mercer Island. There's a park that has this like gorgeous, maybe the wrong word, but like very brutalist concrete parking structure, and no one is ever there. So I went over there, I printed out a bunch of physical copies of the posters, and I stuck them all up. I took the album cover, and then I just come back like every couple days and just take like a 10-second video, and like 3 days later, another 10-second video. And so that was just natural decay of those posters getting ripped and torn over time. And I liked the idea that, especially with the themes of the record, like by the last song, the posters were kind of nearly gone.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
This was in 24?
23.
23?
Yeah, 3 years
Okay,
ago.
cool. I wonder if there's any remnants of it still there.
I think there's like a little bit like glue. A little bit something. Yeah,
Hey,
if you
that's
go.
cool.
So, yeah, if anyone's ever at Luther Burbank Park over in Mercer Island, that's, yeah.
That is dope. And, I will say Brutalist is beautiful. I like Brutalist architecture.
I need that on a t-shirt. Brutalist is beautiful.
It is, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in a city that was all Brutalist. I think that'd be a bit much. But when you come across a Brutalist building, it grabs your attention. You're like, whoa, look at that.
Absolutely.
Sasha Robati taught me what that was. I was like, woo, I really like that building. And he's like, Brutalist. He's from Germany, I think. So it just like
he'd
fit
know
really
all
well.
about Brutalism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's a DJ out of Las Vegas, but he has like an architecture degree.
Cool.
Yeah, super cool. Okay, so let's talk about a song that I had never heard before.
Yeah.
But I threw it on the playlist for this interview. It's called Raccoon.
Raccoon.
Yes, yeah. Let's chat about that one.
No, I think that song slots nicely into the stuff that we've been talking about trying to on one hand marrying the spectacle and the sincerity, and I think this is kind of marrying the hardness and the softness of a lot of the emotional content. So when I was writing Myths initially, it was the body of work that turned into that album was half an album of songs about like this party, and I wanted to have all these like interconnected stories of this party kind of fit together, and then the other half was kind of the more like movie making storytelling stuff. The final album ended up being both kind of smashed together in a way I'm really happy with. But there are a couple songs from the party record that made it onto Myths. We've got Gumball, we've got String Theory, and a few others all kind of take place at the same party. Raccoon, in my mind, does the same thing. And the song itself is I think again one of those ones where I wanted to delicately strike the balance between kind of teasing fun at a character and also earnestly emotionally engaging with a character. And this is whenever I'm at a party, I am very much the one who's like shut down in the corner in an oversized hoodie. You know, I get very overstimulated. I get very anxious in kind of large group social settings. And the narrator in this song is very much going through the same thing of just being at this house party and not knowing what to do with their body. And I think I being my bearded heavy self living in Los Angeles among gorgeous, stunning people, very much often felt like, man, why am I the least desirable body at this party? And I can feel that, you know. And then try not to internalize that, I think was a big effort and lesson on my part. But I think people really connect with that song. I think just because the absurdity of that process, that thought process, but also the pervasiveness of it. I think we've all been in different rooms and felt like, oh man, I don't feel desirable. I don't feel any of these things. The structure of it was inspired specifically by this song on Bo Burnham's Inside. He has this really fantastic song called White Woman's Instagram, if you're familiar.
Nice.
And what he does, and I think this is brilliant, this is part of Bo's brilliance, is he, for the most of the song, it's just like poking fun at this character, talking about, all the things she's posting on her Instagram, right? And the bridge breaks and the style slightly changes, and he goes on this kind of long run-on verse about this really thoughtful post about how this girl misses her mom and how she passed away and all these things. And it's this like genuinely heart-wrenching moment in the middle of this comedy song essentially, and then right at the end of that bridge he snaps right back into comedy mode and stays there for the rest of the song. And I think that's just a brilliant device in terms of the project he was working on with Inside. But I wanted to replicate that with Raccoon. So there's this break in Raccoon towards the end where the emotion beneath the defensiveness finally comes out and talks about, I think the verse and the chorus is all kind of this like playing this confident, slightly raucous character about like, I'm fucking exhausted and I'm wearing this oversized hoodie and fuck everyone at my house. And then this bridge breaks and investigates like, I'm actually feeling deeply insecure and lonely, and then jumps right back into the comedy stuff from there. And I just found that a really effective device when Bo used it, and did my best to replicate it myself in that song.
Thank you for sharing all that. One thing that stood out to me is I have to know what you meant when you said that you're still spelling drama with a lowercase
Oh,
t.
trauma with a
Oh
lowercase
my
t.
God. I was like, what is? I don't understand. But still, what is the meaning behind that?
I had a therapist a while back who I would sometimes go to her and I'd be like, I feel like I have a brain that malfunctions, but I don't have any, I don't have real trauma, right? And she's like, there's big T trauma and little T trauma. And I always liked that dichotomy. So no, I think it was part of trying to reference this idea that the narrator of that song feels like they're in significant distress despite never having experienced anything really traumatic, quote unquote, right? And so I think there's a complex you can have there for sure.
And then can we shout out whoever did that ripping awesome guitar solo?
Oh my God, yeah, dude. That was my buddy John Trujillo. He lives in Los Angeles. He had played a show with us the day before. I'd flown down to Glendale to play a Halloween show, and I think this was 24. I loved his playing so much. I said, hey man, can you go to my buddy's apartment tomorrow and lay that down? He's like, I got it. So I wasn't even there. I wasn't there when it was recorded, but John Trujillo and Jesse Field did that in like an hour together somewhere in Los Angeles. So,
It is so kick-ass.
yeah, no, he kills it, man. He's a great player.
That solo was burning.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then the last song I want to talk about that you're going to play for us tonight is probably, it was like my introduction to your music, and it's it was my introduction to your music, and then absolutely like one of my one of my favorite songs that you have, and that's String Theory. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear the history and like meaning behind String Theory.
Absolutely. My God, yeah. So String Theory is part of that same body of work of like party songs, that
Yes.
kind of where that started. And so all of these came out of these party songs. I was living in Glendale with two guys I met on Facebook Marketplace, like total random connection. They both ended up being Disney Imagineers, just like brilliant, creative, imaginative artist people. And we all had this idea of throwing house shows that weren't just house shows, but like we talked about, more than just your average show. They were about inclusivity and about connection, about authenticity and vulnerability and all those things. And we'd have these really lovely conversations trying to figure out how do we design a show that allows people to get like a little bit more connected with each other, or allow themselves to be a little bit more vulnerable, right? And so we'd spend our time designing these installations and designing the flow of the evening to be about, vulnerability and connection. And really, most of the time, what would happen is people would like drink all our alcohol and start throwing up in our backyard.
Oh no.
And in a way that I think was also, kind of beautiful and romantic in its own way. And I think that's the point of the song is I wanted to echo kind of the chaos of the party with the chaos of, I think, just like being alive in a time when your phone tells you the world is ending every single morning.
Pretty
what
much.
I mean? And I think, just the idea that nothing is perfect and everything is falling apart, but we're here and that has to mean something, I think is what the song is trying to say ultimately. And
if parties could still save us.
Yeah. And I don't know if parties can save us. I think a lot of people love those lines because like you're saying parties and music can save us. And I'm like, I don't know if they can, honestly. They probably can't, but like, if they could, I think we're doing the best possible job here that we can. You know what I mean? And so, and I think that's the end of the song where, if parties can't save us, if music can't save us, then at least we're here, being a little bit too drunk in someone's backyard, right? And there has to be, I think it's about, maybe there has to be something beautiful and redemptive about that if there's nothing beautiful and redemptive elsewhere, I suppose. But,
totally.
No, I'm a big fan of that song, and I'm happy to hear it's resonated with you. And
absolutely. Yeah, I like that line, capsize party.
Capsize parade?
Parade, yeah. Capsize parade.
Yeah. Well, that comes from, I didn't lift that directly, but there's one of my favorite songwriters, a guy named Frank Turner, if you've heard of him. He has a song called Love, Ire, and Song, which is about a lot of things. It's actually kind of about his frustration with the concept of revolution, which I appreciate. But there's a line in there, he gets to the bridge and he goes, God, how's it start? If we're stuck on this ship and it's sinking, then we might as well have a parade, is the idea.
Yeah.
And so I've always loved that image, the idea that like we're on this sinking ship and it's going down, and so we're going to have a party, And so I wanted to lift that visual. So capsize parade is the best I could come up with. But I think it's just like, when the boat you're on is sinking, what else can you do but throw a party?
Yeah, right? Like those guys on the Titanic. It's been a pleasure, boys.
Yeah,
and just,
exactly.
Like, we're going to rock out one last
Play
time.
the ship down, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Well, I love that song, and I love that idea because I think it's just so prevalent in the way like built society works, right? Where it feels like we're a ship on a tightrope, where it feels like at any point it could capsize, but if it does, we're gonna be partying on it.
That's the idea. Well, no, even on the arc of that album too, on Myths, I where that's supposed to land, I think emotionally too, is there's some songs that talk about the party in the first half of the record, and the arc of that record in my mind is having this idea of that your life could be like a movie, right? You're trying to make your life have this narrative arc to it. And I think there's a grief over the course of the record. You discover that lives aren't supposed to make narrative sense. There's a lot of grief and difficulty in that, but also the best thing you can do for yourself is accept that. And so the two kind of axes of the party songs on that record is, the first one is Gumball, which is this very like cinematic, perfect meet cute at a party where everything's kind of glowing and the angles are perfect. And then String Theory is the response to that, where everything's fucking falling apart and the camera angles are a mess and everyone's a little bit too drunk. But I think that was meant to communicate over the course of the record, this is what this is really like. You're not going to have, like, maybe sometimes you get these beautiful, perfect cinematic moments in your life that feel, perfect in your gut or something. But most of the time, life's going to be kind of a chaotic, non-narrative mess. And that's kind of the thesis of the record more than anything.
That makes me think of something that I struggle with every now and then, where, especially after watching a movie, because it moves us in so many ways, and we're so sucked in. And I just saw The Odyssey the other day, and I leave, and I'm like, wow, I'm kind of inspired, but also depressed.
Yeah.
And it just leaves me with this question all the time: is like, when does my life's adventure begin?
Yes.
Like, when am I going to go on like this long adventure where there's like all of these like heroic moments and meeting all these people and all these like a grand design of adventure.
Totally, right? I mean, movies teach you that your life is going to arrive in a series of like grand choices that define who you are. It's more like a million little annoyances that you kind of have to slowly like assimilate into some half-formed version of yourself. And that's way less exciting than like taking a sword and slaying the beast, right? But I think sometimes taking the sword and slaying the beast is like learning to pay your bills on time. You know what I mean?
One thing that I've like reminded myself, like as I have this thought process, is when you watch the movie, you have to remember this is a very small part in their life. Like I was watching this TV show and I'm like, what you're seeing, like if this character was real, you're only seeing like an hour of their day, so to speak, or an hour that's taking place over like a week or so.
Totally.
Right. So it's actually like there's a lot of gray space in there, kind of like what you're talking about, where it's like there's a lot of these like in between things that you're working on that build up, and then the moment happens.
Absolutely,
but that's what it is. It's like what you're seeing in the movie is like a collection of the summarization of all those moments. But nothing in between.
The Rocky montage when he's getting in great shape, man. That was 18 months. They just snapped their fingers by. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't see what happens when you sit on the toilet with protein shits. You know, when I started going to the gym, I'd be in the bathroom like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And then my buddy's like, you're just eating all this protein now. It's okay.
Exactly.
So what I'd love to close out with is that through all of your music, which I think Spotify said that you've released like 14 pieces of works between like singles, EPs, and albums, which is cool. There's like this beta version that like gives you a summary of the artist. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Everything sounds like very good. So I feel like you skipped the like lo-fi, we're figuring out how to record our music. So what has been like your philosophy or approach to like recording all of your pieces of work?
It's funny you should say that, because I'm sure you know, as someone who also produces a body of work, you look back at your early stuff and you go, oh man. You cringe at it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I still, I feel that way about some of my earlier work. I think there is an EP. Well, I guess no. What's the first thing I put out? I did put out a song in 2012 when I was in middle school that I have eliminated from most streaming services. But and there's an EP I think in like 2015 that also I scrubbed most of. But all to say, I think I don't consider myself a gifted like audio engineer. Like even now, I don't really. I'll record demos. If my band is watching this, they can attest to the fact that my demos are like cobbled together with iPhone microphones and MIDI instruments. You know what I mean? Just because that is the easiest translation process for me of like idea to page, right? I think going into the studio or making like a nice, or like setting up a nice microphone to do a vocal take, I'm like, no, I just need it now to exist. And so I think I've always left most of the recording to like the professionals as best I can. I remember when I did my first set of recordings, I did seek out a studio. I found a guy down in Shelton. His name's Jason. His studio is called South Sound Sound. Shout out Jason. And he was great. And he cut me a deal because I was like just like my third year of high school or something. And I was like, man, I want to record my first little set of songs. I just need a place to go. Here's my budget. And he was like, let's do it. So I brought my band down to Shelton for a weekend, and we made that first EP. And I think ever since then, I've tried really hard to as someone who really loves like a huge drum sound too, I think being in a studio has always been really important to me for that reason. And you can get decent drums with MIDI sounds, but in my opinion, I'm like nothing beats having real instruments recorded in a real room, mixed by someone who really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
So no, if I can afford that for as long as I can, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One epiphany I had today while I was listening to Gwen Stefani.
Yeah.
Is I was like, holy shit, this producer has, I think what's great about like the genius of like those hits is that there's all these small little like inflection points and all these small little like brush strokes where it's like, oh wow. I think that's what makes it so good is like there's this small little bit that they did on like this tail end reverb or whatever where you're just like, wow, like I wouldn't have noticed that unless I was very much listening to it. But when you're listening to it passively, that all plays into like the experience, even if you're not aware of it.
No, right? I mean, I think like some of the greatest pop mixers it's actually entirely the details. I mean, you and I could right now probably go online and find some great like prefab mix session and just throw our stuff into it. It would sound pretty good, you know, but those really fantastic pop mixes, they're in there like hand drawing the automation for like the vocal reverb or whatever, right? And that you wouldn't notice it unless you were paying attention. But like, oh my God, it really does so much, like you said, to make that complete canvas feel that much more effective.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, do you have any music that's coming out? I think you're playing a song tonight.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I'm playing an unreleased song tonight called Apple, which we're in the process of recording and we'll hopefully have out later this year. And then we're doing Cowboy Disco 2.
Oh!
I know, which your band, Balcony Bridge, played the first one of. That was High Dive?
High Dive. That was like in the beginning of 24, yeah.
Oh, my God, okay. We're doing that again, finally, at Tractor up in Ballard in September 10th. We're opening for a touring band called Boys Go to Jupiter on September 14th. And then we've got our annual prom on December 12th at Baba Yaga. So,
kick ass.
Yeah, it's a good year.
All right, well, Henry, thank you so much for, joining me for this pilot episode of the Emerald Gem live session. Super excited to hear you play here at Handsome Jack here in a little bit. Thanks again for sitting down with me, and it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, man. Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Sweet.
Cool.
All right. Rock and roll.
We did it. Thanks, buddy.